the Daily Divine Direction broadcast. For all of our new listeners and viewers who are tuning in for the very first time, I'm Pastor Pope, Senior Pastor of New Life Christian Center, located at 400 Hillcrest Avenue in Wilmington, Delaware, 19809. We are located at the corner of Hillcrest and Marsh Road in Wilmington, Delaware. There's parking on Hillcrest. We're the brown brick building located right on the corner of Hillcrest and Marsh Road. We have reopened with protocol. If you're in our area, we invite you to come and worship with us at 10 a.m. on Sunday morning. Come and experience a better quality of life. And I want to say to all of our listeners and viewers, if you are not in our area, you can tune in for the Sunday sermon. We are live on Facebook. We are live on YouTube. And at New Life Christian Center _ Pastor Pope, tune in with us at 10:45 a.m. However, if you're in our area, come and worship with us at 10 a.m. on Sunday morning. Come and experience a better quality of life. And as always, our 3D Daily Divine Direction broadcast is brought to you by Fiji Water, Earth's finest water. You may already know that Fiji water comes from Fiji. However, did you know that it is created by nature? It is untouched by man. It starts as a tropical rainfall which slowly filters through layers of volcanic rock. The water collects in a natural, sustainable artesian aquifer where it is bottled right at the source, free from human contact until you unscrew the cap. Fiji Water, Earth's finest water, will be delivered right to your front door when you subscribe for delivery. And you'll save money at FijiWater.com. This is truly Earth's finest water. And for those of you who continue giving on the give segment of our app at New Life-Delaware, and those of you that have made a weekly or monthly commitment, for all of our listeners and viewers who are supporting the broadcast, we thank you for your commitment and your support. There's a lot of infrastructure costs in being on the air 6 days a week, and we are about to expand our broadcast on Radio Free Network in the coming months. So we don't take your support and your commitment for granted. We thank you for your continued support and your continued commitment as we fulfill our commitment to God, to be here to address whatever topics you might like to discuss, whatever issues of life you find challenging or that you find difficult to navigate. You can discuss careers, finances, entrepreneurship. You can discuss marriage, divorce, raising children, blending families. You can discuss dating and relationships. Whatever's in your heart, whatever's on your mind, God is concerned about that which concerns you. And that is why we are here in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast from Monday through Friday from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, scheduling permitted, to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to hear from God. Whatever God speaks to me regarding your communications, as I pray over them, I will speak to you on subsequent broadcasts right here in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast. I'm going to address a communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated that your friends want to go on a girls' trip. However, you are not certain that you are comfortable with traveling just yet. And you want to know how can you get them to hold off on the trip until a later time so that you can be present for the trip. So let me begin by saying this. You're suffering from FOMO. You're the fear of missing out. You are suffering with the possibility, struggling with the possibility that they're going to leave and go on a trip and you're going to miss out on something. And here's what I'm going to say to you. Let them go. Let them go on the trip and you remain at home until you feel comfortable. Don't allow anyone else. Listen, we are still in a pandemic. I won't say that we are in the midst of a pandemic because we are, people are being vaccinated. We are taking necessary precautions. So we are definitely moving forward, but we're still in a pandemic. And the reality is, with the vaccine, we are seeing the numbers decreasing, but we're still in a pandemic. I don't blame you for being cautious. I will say that your friends are not being very responsible right at the moment. Now, here's why I say that. Airlines have done what they can do to make certain that the air systems are flowing more effectively, that contagions are not being spread. They have now also announced that people have to, obviously people have to be masked anyway, and they've announced that they want to, in many cases, they want to see that you've been vaccinated, because this is another step forward. So all of that's important. Once upon a time, it was you just had to have a COVID test before your departure. It had to be negative, and you had to take a test. I forget how many hours before you were supposed to depart on your flight. But the reality is that when you have friends who have not been vaccinated, see, this is the problem. A couple of your friends have still not been vaccinated, but they're willing to get on an airline that doesn't require them to show their vaccination, only that they've been tested for COVID, which sometimes there's a false negative or a false positive. So we really don't know. And then you have friends who, someone said this to me yesterday. Sometimes people will just lie and tell you that they've been tested or they've been vaccinated, and they haven't done any of that. So we have to make certain that we're only around people who are wearing masks, socially distanced, and if you're traveling with them, you definitely want them to have been tested and preferably vaccinated. Let your friends go. You are not going to miss out on anything. There'll be other trips. You'll feel more comfortable. And here's the reality also, you'll save yourself some money, because I realize people are getting cheap flights right now because the airlines want to get people back on board, and all of that's cool. However, you'll save yourself some money right now because you won't be taking this trip. So let them go. Let them go on the trip. Let them travel and enjoy themselves, and whatever they have to deal with when they return, they'll have to deal with when they return. If you are not feeling comfortable traveling right now, don't travel. It's a little different if you're flying privately. Then the people who are traveling with you, because there's a limited number, can show their vaccination cards, can wear masks, and can go where you're going. But when you're flying commercially, you don't know the other people that have been on the planes, not to mention your friends. Now, obviously, if you were flying privately, then you know the people that are going to be on the flight with you. And you know they've been tested. You know everybody's doing what needs to be done to make certain that everyone stays safe and well. Commercial flights are a whole different animal. They're a different animal. And the reason I say that is because everyone can get on a commercial flight, and you don't know where they've been. Just sit this one out. Don't try to convince them, because all you're going to do is cause some anxiety and some conflict. And God is not the author of confusion. Just tell them that you're not going to make this trip. Just tell them you'll see them next time, but you're not feeling comfortable enough to travel right now. Just take that approach. If you do that, you're going to find that you will be just fine. You're not missing anything. You're not missing out on anything. Stay safe, stay well. There'll be other trips, and you'll be able to enjoy yourself Because if you were to go on this trip, well, obviously you already know, if you were to go on this trip, you're not going to feel good about it. And you don't want to take a trip and not be able to enjoy the trip that you're on, not be able to enjoy what you're doing, not be able to enjoy yourself because you're still concerned about COVID. We all have to do our part. But for those who are not doing their part, in order for you to stay safe and well, you're going to have to stay away from them. And so I'm going to encourage you just to let them go. Just tell them you're not going to make this trip and you'll see them on the next one. This segment of the broadcast is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's largest and fastest 5G provider at no extra charge. So if you are not currently a T-Mobile customer, you may call or text on the T-Mobile call or text line at 267-992-1424. You cannot have been a T-Mobile customer in the previous 90 days. And we will place you into our queue that you may become a T-Mobile customer and experience America's largest and fastest 5G provider at no extra charge. Taxes and fees will be included in your bill. And if you auto pay by attaching a credit card to your account, you will receive a discount on your monthly bill at T-Mobile, America's largest and fastest 5G provider at no extra charge. I'm going to address another communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated that you feel like you are not making the progress you desire to make. And you want to know, what can you do to make your life move forward faster? Okay, so let me first of all say this. You do not need to move any faster. You just need to remain consistent. You need to remain consistent for a longer period of time. So, two of the keys to success. My grandfather taught me this when I was a young man. I was a teenager, probably no more than 13, maybe 14. But in any event, he told me two of the keys to success were consistency and longevity. Now, I've pardon me, my allergies have been flared up for all week, I should say, so just bear with me if you will. I've found other keys along the way of life to success, but he gave me this foundational approach, and he said consistency and longevity were two of the keys to success. You don't need your life to move faster. You need to walk into your destiny. You need to just remain consistent. So you don't feel that you're making the progress you desire to make. However, you are making the progress that God has appointed for you to make. Right now, this day, right where you are. And let me tell you the reason that I say that. You're not ready to handle anything more than where you are right now. See, God gives to every man, woman, and child according to their measure of faith. And according to how much faith you have, God gives to you accordingly. You can't handle anymore right now. You don't need to move any faster than you're moving right now. You just have to realign your desires with God's will. You want more, but you can't handle more. You can only handle where you are right now. Anything more than where you are right now would be destructive. You have to be patient, and you have to keep working. You have to increase your measure of faith. In other words, you've got to begin believing at another level. Little faith, little progress. Some faith, some progress. Much faith, more progress. And we've got to be in our spiritual walk wise enough to know that where we are is where God would have us to be, because we haven't elevated to the next level in God. You don't need to move any faster. You just think you do. You believe you do. You're looking around at other people, comparing yourself to other people. See, it's one thing to monitor what other people are doing and emulate those who are having greater success than you're having. But it's another thing to compare yourself to other people. Because when you compare yourself to other people, you're never going to feel that you are where you need to be. You have to recognize that God has you right where you need to be today. You have to trust Him that you are right where you're supposed to be. Any more than where you are right now, it would overwhelm you. It would be destructive. It would be more than you could bear. And God has promised us in His Word that He will never put more on us than we can bear. And I know there are people out there right now listening saying, you know, I'd like to have that problem of having more. You really don't. There's an adage, more money, more problems. First thing people say is, I'd like to have the problem of having more money. Well, if you're not ready for it, you can't receive it. You can ask, but God's only going to respond according to His will. Now, sometimes it's His permissive will. So He lets people, for lack of a better term, He lets them have it to teach a lesson, because there has to be a lesson learned. But we have to recognize how important it is to be content where we are, not stagnant, not complacent, but to be content right where we are. Complacency and stagnation will delay your destiny. However, when we are diligent in spirit and we seek to have an excellent spirit, it will move us forward towards our destiny, what God has predestined for our lives. We have to be wise enough to know the difference. We have to be wise enough to know that I don't have the wisdom and understanding I need to manage more in my life than I'm managing right now. We've got to be wise enough to know that. We've got to make certain that we're walking into our destiny, not running and tripping over our destiny or tripping over the path to our destiny. You know, there's so much that I want to say to so many people, and due to time constraints, I'm not going to be able to address all of that. But if you tune in on Sundays to Sunday sermons, if you're in our area, come worship with us, hear the Word of God at 10 a.m. at New Life Christian Center. If you're not in our area, tune in for the Sunday sermon. I address so much of these these issues in the sermon of our relationship with Christ. First, we have to get in a relationship with him. The truth of the matter is that God has predestined our lives. Long before we came forth from our mother's womb, God already had a plan and a predestination, a destination that he has already prepared for each and every one of our lives. We've got to walk this thing out. We've got to make certain that we position ourselves to be blessed in the path that God has appointed for our lives and be ready to fulfill our destiny. This segment of the broadcast is brought to you by Charles Tyrwhitt, located in London, the UK. They also have stores in New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and at the King of Prussia Mall in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. So if you're in any of those areas, stop in at the retail stores. They have everything that a man could possibly need: shirts for men, ties for men, suits for men, and accessories. If you're not in any of those areas, you can order from Charles Tyrwhitt at ctshirts.com. And The White Company, located in London, the UK. They also have stores they have a store on Fifth Avenue in New York and at the Short Hills Mall in Short Hills, New Jersey. So if you are in either of those areas, stop in at their retail stores. They have everything that you could possibly need: home goods, clothing for men, women, and children. And if you're not in either of those areas, you can order from The White Company at thewhitecompany.com. They too will ship and deliver right to your front door in an appropriate period of time. I'm going to address another communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated that your daughter has just told you that she is living a bisexual lifestyle. You love your daughter, however, you are not happy with her choice to live this alternative lifestyle. And you want to know, how do you handle this news? So let me explain something. Interestingly enough, we were having the conversation about acceptance. People want to be accepted for the choices that they make. It doesn't imply you have to condone it. You said you love your daughter, and rightfully so. She's your daughter. She's chosen a lifestyle that she wants to live. You accepting the fact that she's going to make her choices doesn't imply that you condone the lifestyle. You don't have to embrace the fact that she wants to be involved with both men and women. Look, we're living in a society where people are doing exactly what they want to do. And you can either stress yourself out about the choices that your daughter's making and stress your relationship with your daughter by debating the topic, having conflict and dissension about the topic. It's not going to change anything. She's going to live the way she chooses to live. Your job is only to love your child and accept their right to make choices, even when those choices aren't in their best interest. I know what you're concerned about. God allowed me to see in that secret place. One of the things I pray for every day, at least 3 times during the course of the day, I pray that God will continue to give me daily divine direction to speak the things that He would have me to do and say. I also pray at least during 3 times a day, that God will continue to allow me to see into the lives of his people and into the minds of his people. And God has been faithful and has opened my eyes to see in that secret place of your lives. Your concern is that if your daughter is practicing a bisexual lifestyle, it may lead her to living out a life that will not afford you the privilege of grandchildren. I'm here to tell you today that's not going to happen. You will eventually have a grandchild. As a matter of fact, you'll eventually have 2 grandchildren. But this is the choice she's made today. That doesn't imply that that will last forever. It doesn't imply that that will be her choice forever. But it's her choice for now. And not debating that topic doesn't imply that you condone it. It just means that you accept her right to make choices in her life. Now, that also does not imply, and this is where it gets real complicated, because so often when people choose to live a lifestyle that is not comparable to your lifestyle, people feel that you have to accept it by allowing them to bring their friends into your space. It's not required of you. You can love your child, but you can tell them very clearly, this isn't the way we live, meaning you and your husband, and you're not willing to allow them to bring that behavior into your home. That's you have that right also. Just like they have a right to their choices, you have a right to your choice. It gets tricky because then people get offended and they say, well, if I can't bring my friend when I come to visit you, then I'm not coming. That's also a choice. But they have to be very careful, because that means that they've now created a breach. They'll say you created the breach, but you're not the one going to their home. They're coming to your home. So we have to be able to stand on our principles, but at the same time accept the fact that people have the right to make their own choices. That is the way we live our lives, with the consideration of humanity. I want to say, I'm going to pray for you and your daughter that you will have peace as you continue to move forward in your everyday lives. I want to say to all of our listeners and viewers that I am starting a sermon series on Sunday. A sermon series that's going to take us through the month of May, so that we can get everyone on the path to experiencing the fullness of God. This has been burning in my spirit now for this whole month. And now the Lord has been speaking to me, and now we're going to prepare to go into this sermon series. I encourage everyone, if you're in our area, you don't want to miss this. Come, worship with us. Service begins at 10 a.m. We are within protocol. We are socially distancing. Everyone's wearing masks. We're doing what is necessary to be safe and well. You don't want to miss this. If you're not in our area, tune in at 10:45 a.m. when we go live with the Sunday sermon. You will be blessed by what God is speaking to us all that will take us to the next, that will allow us to live at another level, in another level. Today's 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast, is brought to you by Fiji Water.